Hello, my name is Ariana DeAngelis, and I'm the training manager for the Autism Project. In this video, we'll be taking a look at these visual support and resource packets for first responders. These packets were created through a generous grant from the Department of Justice to promote safety in the autism community. So in these packets, you'll find a lot of different resources and visuals that you can use in your day-to-day work when interacting with autistic people. One thing to keep in mind, so let's take a quick look at some of the things you have here. So we have things like, and please forgive the glare, the lamination is causing the light to bounce. We have these stop signs. We have wait signs. There are also break signs or break cards. With each of these, the intention is with this sheet to cut them up into smaller versions. So you have an individual break card. We have here an individual wait card, and an individual stop sign. Now, the purpose of these is to indicate with a visual support what you need the individual to do, what the expectation is, or to offer a different option. So for example, where would you use a stop sign? One of the things to keep in mind, and you may have seen this in some of our other videos, one of the things to keep in mind is that there is the potential for an autistic person, or any person really, to elope during an emergency. So let's say, for example, you're working on an individual, there's been a medical emergency, there's a lot of overwhelm in situations like this, sensory challenges may be bombarding the individual, difficulty processing what's going on, pain, panic, there are so many potential things. And if that person is near an area where, let's say they're near a road or near a wooded area, there's the potential that person could get up and run unexpectedly. Having individuals, so having first responders blocking the way to that unsafe area. So for example, standing back towards the road, creating that perimeter, and having these stop signs in the event that the person runs towards them can give that person a quick visual cue to stop. So it reinforces the verbal direction with a visual. In the same way, there are potentially going to be times where that individual has to wait. Having a visual to communicate that, having a wait card, and let's see if I can get it away from that. There we are. Having a wait card that can reinforce that verbal direction can be very helpful, especially during periods of high stress. It can be very difficult to process verbal language, meaning you may be saying to the person, we gotta wait, we gotta wait, we gotta wait, but your voice is potentially background to the person. They're having difficulty holding on to that language. It's muffled. They've got a lot of thoughts racing in their own head. So having a visual support can be really helpful. Now, with the break card, and again, you're going to have lots of different examples of break cards here. With a break card, this is when you have the opportunity to do so, which you won't always have depending on the emergency, offering the person an opportunity to take a break. Meaning, I, as the first responder, I'm going to still step away with enough proximity to keep you safe. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to stop asking questions. I'm going to stop working on you for a little bit. Let me give you a couple minutes to take a break. Again, these things can be extraordinarily overwhelming for anybody. For someone on the spectrum, it may be particularly difficult because they're also managing sensory overwhelm and things of that nature. So offering the opportunity to take a break, which again, I know is not feasible in every situation, but if it is, it can be an extraordinarily powerful tool. Hey, let's take a quick break. Do you need a break? Let's take a break. You may find that the person may react perhaps negatively or may resist taking a break. For those folks, there's the potential that the word break is associated with something else. So if you say, hey, do you want to take a quick break? And they seem to get upset, you can use a different word. Do you want to take a rest? Do you want to take a few minutes? To just offer that person a little bit of space to re-regulate themselves, to calm down a little bit, to have that moment of peace, and then you can jump back into what you were doing previously. Now, one of the things to keep in mind, so with these visuals, you have been offered visuals of a variety of genders, a variety of skin tones. Representation is important. So if you can, and I know All different situations are different. Some emergencies, you're moving really fast, you're grabbing whatever you can. But if you can, having a visual that represents the individual is very important. Now let's use the example of break one more time. And we can use the example of wait 2 here. You're giving the person a break. You're giving them, let's say, 5 minutes where you're stepping back and you're giving them that opportunity to re-regulate themselves. Now, how does that person know when their break is done? You might say, okay, go ahead, take a 5-minute break. But especially in an emergency, tracking time, which is a really abstract concept to begin with, can be really tough. So that's when you might want to use a countdown. So you'll have in your packets a first then board. And again, I apologize for the glare here. And you can see it says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and done. So you might say to the person, let's take a 5-minute break. You can say to them and have this in their proximity, 5 more minutes and break is all done. A minute later, 4 more minutes and break's all done. A minute later, you might say 3 more minutes and break is all done, and so on and so forth. So what this does is it allows the person to see the progression of that break ending. Even better, if you have it, a whiteboard marker. So if you can throw in this folder, or if you have a kit or a bag, throw a whiteboard marker in there, because even better than using your finger to count down, you can use a marker. So then you're actually crossing it off. So you're saying 5 more minutes and it's all done. Then you're crossing off that 5. Let me just do it here. You're crossing off the 5 so they can see, okay, that one's done. Now we're on 4. Now we're on 3. Now we're on 2, and so forth. In a pinch, if you can't get to this, you can't grab it, you don't have it, it's fallen out of the bag, just use your hand. 5 more minutes and break is all done. After a minute, 4 more minutes and break is all done. 3, etc., etc. Now, you'll notice above this countdown, you have first then. One of the things that can be really helpful in reducing anxiety is to give folks an expectation of how the procedure or how the intervention is going to proceed. Now, it is, if not already clear, it will soon become clear that I myself am not a first responder. So the examples I may use may be a little bit out of order. I apologize if that's the case, but this is where you'll want to use your whiteboard marker to walk the individual through some of the steps, the things that they might be expecting. So for example, I'm going to take my whiteboard marker here and I'm just going to write some steps. So let's say you're taking the person's blood pressure, and then you'll listen to their heart. And again, I don't know if that's the correct order or not, so please forgive me. So here we have first blood pressure, then listen to heart. So you are telling the person, this is what I am doing first. And then when that's done, this is what's happening next. You wipe these off, you clear them off, use a tissue, even use your pant leg if you have to, and then you do the next ones. Next, we're going to do this, then we're going to do that. I also recommend, if you can, implement choice wherever possible. So if you say, okay, what do you want to do first? First, should we do blood pressure, or do you want me to listen to your heart first? Giving that person a little bit of choice empowers them in a really powerless situation. So it can help the person to feel some sense of control over how this situation, this event, is going to unfold. Having that little bit of control can help to bring down that anxiety, bring down that panic. I also recommend, and again, you'll probably see this in some of our other videos if you watch them, allow the person to have a fidget. Allow them to have a pop-it toy, a fidget spinner, a ribbon, anything that they might be holding on to, as long, of course, as it's safe to do so. A lot of times we find that we'll come up upon a person, they're using a fidget spinner, or they're using a pop-it toy, and just as an instinct, the individual working on that person will take it so that they're not distracted. But what that does is it can increase the person's anxiety. So allow them to have their fidget as long as it's safe to do so. Just work around it if you can. Provide one if you've got one on you, even better. And you can also talk to, if there's a caretaker present, talk to the caretaker. Find out how the person best communicates. Find out if they use verbal language. Find out what works for them. Again, with this whiteboard marker, in a pinch, you can write stuff on the back of one of these stop signs. You can write, for example, does your arm hurt? If you need to communicate something and they benefit from having something written out rather than spoken to them. When you do have to use verbal language, speak slowly and give the person ample time to process that language. So if you say, does your arm hurt? Give them 30 seconds to answer before you repeat the question. A lot of times our folks are processing that language, so assigning meaning to the words that we've just said, and then generating an answer. If we keep repeating the question over and over again, what can happen in those situations is that the person starts over each time we repeat, starts that processing over. Their anxiety is increasing from that point, and then you're going to see the potential of a really challenging situation for the patient. So just keep that in mind. Keep your language simple, speak slowly. Don't assume that if the person's not responding, you have to kind of yell at them. Keep your voice down if you can and give them ample time to process. Now, with that question of does your arm hurt, we also have some visuals in your packets. So for example, we have these here. Where does it hurt? So for some folks, it's going to be that they're going to want to point out on the body where their body hurts. Some people may also need choice. So on the back here, you'll see some choices. Now we have a couple of different options, again, a couple of different genders, a couple of different skin tone options for you as well that you can use. And there are also links in the description of this video if you'd like to print out more. And then we have a second page here of where does it hurt. Now for some folks, this can be overwhelming. So they may not be able to accurately choose because there are so many choices here. You may, if you have a general idea, you may want to just present one of the options, or you may want to use what's on the back of your first then, yes, no. So if the person swipes away the visuals, or they seem to be just touching each box, or every time you ask, they choose a different one, the answer may not be reliable. So then you might want to, again, flip over your first then, and you have yes, no on the back. Does your arm hurt? Yes or no. Does your leg hurt? Yes or no. And again, reference the caretaker. The caretaker may be able to tell you if these answers are reliable or if the person is just too overwhelmed to accurately answer in those moments. If you have any questions about how to use any of these resources, please don't hesitate to reach out to us here at the Autism Project. We are so grateful for all of the support that you give to our community, and we consider it a privilege to be able to support you. Thank you.